Well, 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 I almost got you. It is Thursday night, a night that we never have a live guest, and the faithful are here. And we have a special treat for you that I did not even know was going to happen. Let me set the stage. Andy Clapp, Pastor Andy Clapp, he is the pastor of the church that hosted the North Carolina Christian Writer Conference. Now, he's going to tell you all about that, and I'm going to tell you all about it too. But let me tell you this. He can hear me, but he can't interrupt. Okay, so here's the deal. I was the first one there. That's me. Okay, and I called Dale, and I said, Dale, there's no one here, and I'd like to get set up as soon as possible. How soon are you going to be there? And he said, well, Andy Clapp will be there any minute now. He's the pastor. I'll be there in a little bit. Okay, so I parked myself and my daughter under a shade tree, and a van pulls up. And this grubby-looking person got out of the van, who has joined me in my boycott of Gillette products, including the razor blade. In fact, he has gone beyond that. He apparently had boycotted every form of razor blade. I thought this man might be the groundskeeper. And so I approached him and introduced, but I thought, well, maybe he's got a key. I'll get in. And so I approached him and introduced myself, and he says, Andy Clapp. Well, see, because Dale had told me Andy Clapp was a pastor, I knew he was the pastor, but he didn't know I knew he was the pastor. And so I'm saying, I'm trying to establish some credibility why I'm here. Okay. I said, Dale Didway, I'm working with him. He says, oh yeah, Dale Didway, he's got a new book. He says, oh, I did an endorsement for his newest book. And I looked at him and I said, so did I. And then the fight started. Anyway, Andy, I just approached Andy this afternoon and said, Andy, can you come share with me? Because there's some things that I want to give him time. He is a pastor. We generally don't allow preachers on here. All right. But nonetheless, he is not a suit wearing. He is not the kind of guy that polishes a chair with his butt. He is a servant. He is a worker, and the hospitality that this church showed everybody there was mind-blowing, and he is an author. So I want to get the story. You've heard all the funny stuff. Now let's get serious. Andy, thanks for being here tonight. I'm blown
Thanks,
away.
Coach.
I'm really blown away. Tell me, fill me in. Why? Just help me out, man. Just go at it. I'll drink coffee.
The Writers Conference came about 2 years ago. A little over 2 years ago, and my agent called me one night and said, hey, do you think your church would be willing to host a writers conference? And I told him, yeah, I thought it would be a great thing for us to do. And when I went to the church with it, I pitched it as being a part of the global mission.
And it is.
Yeah, Scripture tells us that we're to make disciples in all the earth, not just where we're at, but throughout the world. Mm-hmm. And what better way to do it than to equip those who could write the words that could be read in multiple languages in countries all over the world, countries that we may never visit on foot, but could use their gifts and their talents to reach people that they may never see, but that God is trying to reach. I believe that if God gives us a talent, gives us a gift, and gives us an ability, He has a purpose in mind for it. And who are we to say, no, God can't do that? Well, our church, they jumped on board with it. And the first year, we had a ton of volunteers sign up, and it was incredible. And I started watching because they became enamored with, and they're a servant church anyways. They really are. I'm blessed to work there, to be called to that place, because they enjoy being the hands and feet of Jesus to people they know, people they don't know, people they just met. And then I thought this year was even better. And at the conclusion of last year's conference, they were asking, okay, when are we doing this again? And it was a different way of ministry. It was completely outside of the normal boxes that you check for ministry. And that was what I liked about it. Was let's encourage people who have the ability to reach even more people, and let's do that in a top-notch level. Let's do it and not for our glory. We don't want any glory from it, but let's do it so that they know that God is pushing them forward in what they're doing, because he's given them that gift. And to watch them serve is absolutely, it's fun. I love it.
I've never seen anything like this. I mean, now you were an author. I guess they knew you were an author, but I mean, I can just envision that pitch you made at 99 out of 100 churches. You know, like, well, you know, there's insurance, and you know, normally we charge for this, and who is these, you know, and you want us to furnish. I mean, let me tell you how bad it is, and I don't want to sound bitter, but this actually is true. Our church is situated adjacent to the Jewish synagogue. The properties join. Every year, the Jewish synagogue puts on a cultural thing, you know, kosher food, festival. It's just a community thing, okay, that they do.
Yeah.
Our church closes our parking lot, blocks it off, so that people can't use our parking lot to go to there. And it shames me. I'm so ashamed.
You want to know something? I haven't shared this with you. I don't know why I haven't told you earlier, but our church actually hosts a Messianic Jewish meeting on Saturdays, free of charge. They use our facilities. And it's because it's that chance for us to reach others. And the church needs to start looking at these things, Coach, and saying, how can we reach more people?
What kind of people did Jesus hang around?
You know, and that's the key. That's the key right there. Coach, you're all over it. What we have done is we've said, well, he just hung around those who wore their Sunday best. But that's not biblical.
Well, he was there to criticize them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He pointed out, you know, he said that their hearts were far from him. And the thing was that Jesus spent his time with the broken, with the hurting, with the sinners,
the IRS agents. Yeah, the IRS agents. I mean, by the way, back then, folks, IRS agents, those tax collectors weren't bound by any law except their own. They went out and hustled the citizens and subjects for money.
They were extortionists.
Exactly.
Absolutely extortionists.
Exactly.
They had the power to do so.
Yeah.
And there was Jesus sitting at a table with them. And, you know, the Pharisees looked at him and go, why would you eat with those people? And he was like, I came for these people. And that was so foreign of a concept to the Pharisees, because they were bound by religion. And it's easy to get wrapped up in that and miss what God can do through faith. Because, you know, one of my absolute favorite scriptures is Matthew 20:28. But the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. And here's, Coach, here's the essence of it all. One of the last things Jesus did before the cross was to stoop down and wash the feet of the disciples. And not only that, one of those disciples whose feet got washed was Judas. The very one who was going to turn his back on him. He could have said, no, you're not worthy. I know what you're going to do. But he didn't. And then he told the disciples, he said, I have given you this as an example that you should do likewise. So we have to serve. And it's not just serving the people who are easy to serve. We got to serve all people.
The people that are in need of help, you know, that you see them on the side of the street, you know, will work for money. Well, no, they say we'll work for food. Well, that's what I do. I just pay taxes anyway. But, but you know, here's my point. When we're at a stoplight and there's somebody there with a sign, we avoid eye contact with them. You know, because you know, it's on our conscience. Why won't we look them in the eye? Because we know we're guilty. The Holy Spirit is convicting us. Now, by the way, I would never give somebody money. But I can buy them a hot dog.
That's exactly what I do. I don't give money because it's just not I don't feel like that is a good steward of it. So I give food.
Meet their need. That's what Jesus did.
Yeah, and it goes back to the teaching in James. That is what we're supposed to do, because we don't tell them go in peace, be filled, and go on. We meet the physical, and then we meet the spiritual, and in doing so, it opens that door. It really opens the door for us.
We were talking in the green room a little bit about church culture, and you have I guess it's unique, but it's an interesting way. I guess it's proof of some of the things you're saying. A lot of the churches are headed in a direction that I guess they believe it's biblical and right and all that, but what is your critique of some church culture today and how we're reaching out or not reaching out, as the case may be?
I don't want to bash the church, I guess you would say, but
how is your mission different? Let's rephrase it.
I think for us, it is that we want them not to know about Christ, but to actually know Him. And what we have in church culture today that scares me, Coach, is we have turned Jesus into the American dream. We have tossed around words like favor. We've tossed around words like blessed. And if you look at the biblical understanding of a blessed life, it isn't that God is some genie in a bottle who just waves his wand and gives me everything I want. And I think for us, our mission right now, Coach, is I want people to know Jesus, but know the real Jesus, and not know about him, but actually know him for themselves. Most people know what other people have taught them about Jesus. They've heard it in a sermon, or they've heard it in a podcast, or they believe it out of a song, which is kind of dangerous grounds as we're seeing nowadays. But I want them to actually know the biblical Jesus for who he says he is. It is a question that for 2,000 years, man has tried to answer. It is a question that every man, woman, boy, and girl has to answer when their life ends. Exactly. Who is Jesus, and what did you do with him?
Right.
And I believe that when you get that answer, when you truly get that answer to who is Jesus, and it becomes your own answer, it radically changes your life and your vision in life.
And I noticed you posed that in the present tense, not who was Jesus, who is.
No, who is he?
Who is he?
Who is
he? It's been, you see these things, WWJD, and I don't think that's a bad thing, okay?
No.
But I do have a comment. When you say, what would Jesus do, that presumes that you're a pretty accomplished disciple of Jesus to begin with. Maybe the question should be, what do you think Jesus would do?
Yeah. Yes, and I agree with that, because most of the time, and being a pastor, you hear all kind of stuff. People will tell you, well, the Bible says this, and you're looking at them going, no. It don't say that. Really, you get a lot of those. But I think we need to get away from slogan Christianity.
How about T-shirt Christianity? You okay with that?
Get away from T-shirt Christianity and get back to servant Christianity.
I'm wearing a good T-shirt right now.
Well, I like that. That's a good one. We'll keep that one. But when Christianity is nothing more than a catchphrase or a slogan, it hasn't penetrated our heart and changed our lives. Here's one of my great issues right now, and it's with the pastoral realm of Christianity. Never did Jesus act like a CEO.
Oh gosh,
he was not a CEO. And I look at, and there's a lot coming out about it right now, Coach, if you don't care if I share this.
Please.
I saw recently Matt Chandler. He made a quote in an article that was on Christian Post about how churches are not supposed to be like rock concerts and all this stuff. And then David Jeremiah had an article recently. He said that pastors do not need to worship at the altar of attendance. And I was like, wow. Because in our culture today, success is seen as how many members do you have? And are you a mega church? All right.
Nickels and noses. Well,
yes.
Let me parse that a little bit, Andy, because I concur. But I am a scientist and I'm a coach, and we watch the game film. We quantify everything. So here's the thing: how do you measure spiritual growth? Well, some of the things we measure, as you said, we measure attendance. Okay. Well, that is a parenthetical side effect of spiritual growth. That's not spiritual growth, in my opinion. Right. We measure baptisms. We measure the offering. These are correlated indices, perhaps, but I heard it said one time, and it kind of stuck with me. We don't need to measure spiritual growth in the seats. We need to measure it in the streets.
There you go. And that's what I'm talking about, Coach. And the thing is that as pastors, we set the tone for that in our congregations. If we're CEOs, we're not servant leaders. And who are we called as pastors to imitate? Christ. And so if Christ is bending down and washing the feet of the disciples, why in the world are we not? I had a pastor tell me years ago that I would never be a big time pastor. And I would, it didn't bother me. I didn't really care, but he said, you'd never be a big time pastor because you're too hands on. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, the big time pastors, they just oversee everything.
They delegate.
Yeah, and I said, well, that's wonderful. I said, I guess Jesus didn't mean for me to be a big-time pastor. I said, I'm going to do it the way I saw Jesus do it, and I'm good with that. Where that ends with me, I'm fine with.
Yep, you're uncorking so much stuff, and we're all over the place. I want to talk. We'll do this again. What blew me away is the notion that a church would embrace being a host and showing hospitality in a sacrificial way. It's nurturing. It reminds me of disaster relief, how the churches would, feed us and house us and all that. Well, of course they would during a disaster. We're there to help them, among other things. Yeah. But your church was so sacrificial. You ought to see this chat room just lighting up with comments. Let me see if I can just grab a few. The church volunteers became family. Wonderful servants. Thank you for Pastor Andy. I go to a United Methodist church. Our confirmation class takes our kids to a Jewish service. Great point, Andy. I know the one thing can us go about Jesus. That's knowledge. The Gnostics. Okay. Agnostic means anyway. Wow, Ezekiel 34 is the standard for the chat room is lit up. You have struck a nerve, and it is reverberating in the chat room. Speaking of that, we have Christian author Doug Carter in our chat room, Christian author Lori Metzger in our chat room, Christian author Rachel Colby in our chat room. We have an unpublished author who has read many books to me from her heart, Sunbelt Girl, what I call, for lack of better phrase, right-hand man, my most faithful just right-hand man. And Tammy from Georgia, who would like to have gone to the conference, but she had a family, I almost said family conflict. No, it wasn't a family conflict. You know what I'm talking about. I had another engagement. But I appreciate y'all. And we have some people hanging out who are not logged in. We're glad to see them here. And you're welcome to log in, or you're just welcome to hang out with us. But on the way back, I was just reflecting, and I kind of knew that, you being an author, I guess it kind of would fit that you would, sell your congregation on the idea, and they accepted it. But I know they did buy into the idea, because there were as many people volunteering as there were at the conference. It's not easy to take 60 people in and keep them fed and keep the bathrooms up, and oh boy, turn on the air conditioning. Thank goodness. Of course y'all don't have a hot up there. We got a hot down here. We shoot Andy's a sportsman too. We shoot mosquitoes for target practice with low brass 8s. Okay, it's our state bird. We have. He's good. Well, Andy, I think let's do this. Let's do this again. And I never really got a chance to connect with you. I think there's a mission out there, and I think there's a purpose in all of this happening, because folks, I was driving out to this church, and when you think about having a conference, you start thinking mega church, big, and I put this in my map, and I look at it, I was like, okay. Okay, these roads don't even have numbers in there. And I'm driving out, they're beautiful country, by the way, and I'm thinking there's a church out here somewhere. Actually, you have one of the largest mega churches around, not too far down the road from you. But I got there and I thought, how did it happen? This conference picked this church. Well, folks, what really happened is this church picked the conference, and they went after it, and that impressed me. And we have only begun. There's a bird in my studio. Or a big moth, I don't know. He just flew by. It was really fortunate. I've worked on the mission field overseas, and I have experienced. I know exactly what a missionary says when they hit their thumb with a hammer.
Yeah,
same thing I'd say. And then, but I am blown away not only with what happened at the conference, but your church being a foundational, and the center and the circumference of the whole thing. It happened around your church. It happened in your church, and I really just want to just commend you, brother, for nurturing Christian authors.
It's the Lord. I'm telling you, it's the Lord. He has penetrated hearts to understand, Him and how to serve Him.
Andy, let's do this again. We'll have to get together, and because I could go on all night, but I actually have work to do from last night, and I bet you had something to do before I called you. Something tells me. Andy, God bless you. Thank you. Let's do this again, and I can't wait to see what God's up to.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. See you next time. Oh man, I love this. If that doesn't do something to you, you need to see a doctor. Okay, because you're dead. You're a cadaver. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, there's a possum under the floor too down here, by the way, or an armadillo. Folks, I know it was a surprise that we have a live guest, but listen, be ready for the surprises. Be faithful. I've never done this that I wasn't let down when we have a live guest. God just keeps sending us people, and we have got legions of them out there in the wings. We're just got to put the arrangements together, and we're shooting for 2 live guests every night. We're shooting for this becoming a around-the-clock 24/7 Christian television station manned by ordinary people that sit in pews normally. Not degreed seminary graduate, talking head, post-millennial dispensationalism, and all that. Just sharing your walk with Christ. And that is exciting to me, and you're a part of it. I am so glad all of you came. I'm sorry we didn't really have any notice. I planned on doing a little bit more, but I was late getting home from work. But we'll do this again, and we'll run it up a flagpole. Let's do that. And let's continue right here on PJNet Live.